This podcast is brought to you by New Life Ministries.
Welcome to the Every Man's Battle podcast. I'm your host, JJ West. On this podcast, you will hear honest conversation and encouragement for living a life of sexual integrity. Let's get to today's episode. Welcome back to the Every Man's Battle podcast. I am JJ West, licensed marriage and family therapist and one of the presenters at the Every Man's Battle Intensive.
And I'm Doug Barnes. I'm a licensed professional counselor, and I too have presented at the workshop. I run a lot of the aftercare sustained victory groups, practice, personal practice with a lot of guys, a lot of couples, and this is just a real passion of mine as we navigate through this next season of the podcast.
Absolutely. And
I'm
it's
excited.
Good. Always good to be in studio with you, Doug. We're excited about continuing with the topic that we started last week when we kicked off season 2. This topic of why is it important for me to continue to fight, to battle, to keep going even when I'm struggling and failing. And, we started off by defining a few terms, Doug. We defined, well, what does it mean? What's the fight?
Right.
What are we fighting? Who are we fighting? What are we fighting for? We began to define what's the struggle. What is it what are we struggling with? What does it mean if we're struggling? And then there's this final term in our question, failing. So why is it important for me to keep fighting even when I'm struggling and failing? And so what in the world do we mean by failing?
Yes. So I have to ask myself, where do I want to go with this? What do I want to do with this? Because when I'm failing, that has different connotations to different people. So we want to kind of flesh this out a little bit, because sometimes the questions that come out of that. So we need to remember that this is a process.
Yes.
Recovery is a process. It's not an outcome.
Yeah.
I don't achieve recovery sometime. When I'm 6 feet under, our see Jesus. Okay, so that's the ultimate.
Right. But that's really hard, by the way, for a recovering perfectionist to hear that it's a process, not an outcome. Because I want it to be an outcome, and then I get to decide either I was good or bad. And if I didn't fail, I was a good boy, and if I did fail, I was a bad boy. But I want to lean more toward the good boy.
And how does God see that binary type of thinking?
Right, exactly.
Right, He doesn't see us that way.
Yeah.
But through our upbringings, our families of origin, and we'll talk a whole lot more about this as the season goes on. But sometimes we grow up with this idea that I'm either one or the other.
Right.
And that's what makes it an outcome. It's a binary. It has no place to go.
Right. I'm either a success or a failure.
Right. And if I'm failing, then some of the questions that come up are like, what's wrong with me? Or I'm different than you. Am I broken? Not just my spiritual brokenness, right? But am I really truly broken as a man, as a husband, as a friend, as a mentor, coach, as a believer, right? And so as I cross these questions, there are behaviors that are typically attached with that, and we would call those in our recovery language like acting out.
Right.
So this is where I'm misusing my sexuality, trying to get real life needs met in unhealthy ways. So I'm trying to live healthy, doing it in an unhealthy fashion.
Right. Surprising that doesn't work. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Shocker, right? Yeah. So some of these questions I have to ask myself, am I really okay? Not when I'm doing good, but because that's the easy part.
Sure.
We love that.
Yeah.
When we're crushing it, we live that. But when we're not doing well, how do I feel about myself? Do I feel like there are 10,000 spotlights on me saying, you're going to hell, you're a bad person, you're a monster, you're an idiot, you're stupid, you'll never measure up, you're inadequate? Well, yes, sometimes I do feel that. And sometimes that spurs me on into a cycle of my acting out or my unhealthy sexuality, however we want to term that. And then that just keeps perpetuating itself. We call it a shame spiral. And that typically takes us to where we now start isolating It takes us away from our relationship with God,
Right.
our relationship with ourselves, and our relationship with others.
Right.
And so this is where struggling takes on a different meaning.
Yeah.
Because now I want to wave the white flag, I want to check out, I want to throw in the towel, whatever words we use, and just leave it.
Yeah.
I don't want to go back into that.
Yeah.
And I want to quit.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
Well,
and I love the fact that you brought up the whole idea of acting out behavior, because so often that's what people are using. That's the metric they're using to define whether they're failing or not.
Metric, yeah.
If I acted out this week, I looked at porn, I masturbated, I went to the strip club, I texted the mistress, I did whatever, then I failed this week. But if I didn't act out this week, if I didn't do all those things, then it was successful. And it fails to examine the acting in behaviors, the withdrawal, the isolation, the stonewalling, I'm shutting everybody else out, right? It fails to address those things. It fails to address some of the false beliefs about myself that I'm holding on to, or perpetuating the false beliefs that I have about others that I'm holding on to and perpetuating, right? It ignores all of that. It only focuses on this one little aspect of recovery. I shouldn't say little. This one aspect of recovery. It's an important aspect. I don't want to. I shouldn't have said little, because that indicates that it's not important. It's not significant. It is significant, but it's not the only thing that's significant. And when I fail to look at all of those other aspects of recovery, the acting in stuff, those are the things that tend to perpetuate the acting out behavior. So then I stay in that cycle over and over and over again. Yeah.
And you've heard that term, give in.
Yeah. Yes.
I gave in.
Yes.
That's just so, deflating.
Yeah.
I hear it in my practice. I hear it in the Sustained Victory groups.
Yeah.
Well, I had a bad week this week. Oh, really? Did you get fired from your job? Did you,
dog died?
Right. Did you have an accident on the way home? No, I gave in.
Yeah.
Wait. What happened?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Okay. Big red flag, big question mark. Right. I don't know.
Yeah.
And so giving in sometimes signals to us that I failed. But it's not a failing, it's an opportunity. It's adjusting our vision from looking at, again, the outcome, because that's only binary. If I'm not crushing it, then I'm failing. And that is so not true. That in and of itself needs to be addressed, needs to be looked at, needs to be entertained in a conversation. And oh, by the way, when I'm engaged in a conversation, I am getting out of my isolation, my withdrawal, my the ways that I act in and keep myself away from you. So just for those of you, if you don't know what acting in is, it's a relational process that I keep away from you through relationships. Like I'm withdrawing, or I'm isolating, or I'm lying, or I'm excusing a behavior, I'm minimizing something. I'm keeping away from you. You can't see me when I'm just sitting here and withdrawing or avoiding, hiding, blame shifting. You can't see that inside of me. You see the behavior. So I just want to make that distinction of acting in.
And sometimes the acting in is I go pick a fight with you, my spouse, my friend, my roommate, whatever, usually spouse. I go pick a fight with you so that you move away from me, and I feel justified then in my acting out because you were so mean to me, even though I was the one that picked the fight.
Right. Yeah. And that sometimes is a hard vision to shift to.
Yeah.
And again, we'll talk about this more in subsequent episodes about families of origin. Sometimes we learn those things. We learn how to do that as a way of minimizing what's going on inside of us. When the emotion gets too uncomfortable, let's just say, for lack of a better term, then I've learned how to manipulate my environment so that I can release some of that stuff inside of me that I might not even know exists. Yeah. We talk at the couples workshop about some of those love styles, And just recently I had a guy who is in one of my groups. He was in my group at EMB, and he was in at the workshop. And he just came to me. I was out, tech at the back, right? And he walked up to me, and he was just in tears, and he just bear hugged me. And he said, I had no idea some of the things that we had talked about were true about me.
Oh, wow.
And so he had this huge epiphany.
Yes.
To the material, and it's like all the planets lined up for him, and it made sense to him. Yeah. And so he realized now that he's got internal work to do that he didn't even he knew something was up, but he didn't have the language, and he didn't have the personal connection to it. And through that workshop, the marriage workshop, the intensive, he got that connection.
Man, that's so good.
Oh, it was awesome.
So good.
It was awesome to hear him.
And it's not surprising too, because it is the acting out behavior that gets so much of the attention. Right? From ourselves, the person who is acting out, but also from the people around us, especially if we're married. The acting out behavior gets a lot of the attention, and we forget to address the acting in behavior. We never get around to.
Sometimes,
it's just not.
Right.
It's like, as long as I stop doing the acting out, I'll be fine.
Right.
And no, lo and behold, I won't be fine, because I'm a train wreck relationally. Right? I'm not showing up. I'm not present. I'm not offering my full heart, which is also part of the fuel that I want to go act out, because I'm never experiencing real authenticity. I'm never experiencing real intimacy. Right? Yeah.
Well, when was real authenticity ever not scary?
Right. Yes.
Yeah. Takes one to know one, right?
Exactly.
So it's realizing that I can be authentic, I can be tender, I can be compassionate, I can be real, and be in actual relationship with someone, rather than like giving somebody the Heisman and sticking my arm out and going, okay, I'll let you in up to here, because that's the safest I've been.
Right.
But not realizing that sometimes that's the very thing we need to address, because whoever I'm keeping away from me, wife, girlfriend, significant other, family member, whatever, a lot of times those are not the people who hurt us and gave us that sense of I need to be safe in the first place.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I'm acting in with you, but my wound, why I don't feel safe to be that close, that intimate with anyone, came from a long time ago. Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so let's switch gears to some of the goals. So we've talked about the fight. We've talked about this process of when I'm in the struggle, and we've talked about the aspect of failing over and over, and again, trying to get out of that binary, well, I failed, the world's over, it's, the sky's falling, and realize that that's not the end of the process. It's a part of the process, right? But it's not the end of the process. And so let's get into, okay, so let's say I'm struggling, or I have acted out or failed. I really don't like that word failed. We should have changed that. But I get the process of what we're doing. Yeah. So let's talk about where we need to go. Okay, where does this ultimately take us? So let's talk about some goals that this process can really benefit from.
5 years ago, I had been in porn addiction, and I'd had a sexual relationship out of marriage.
Every day, men struggle with sexual integrity, impure thoughts, strip clubs, affairs, pornography. For over 20 years, New Life Ministries has been helping men regain their integrity through their one-of-a-kind Every Man's Battle Intensive, and it's coming to a city near you. To find out more, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE or go to newlife.com. 1-800-NEWLIFE.
Okay, so when we stay in this process of being in the struggle, really digging into the tension between that, those two things, who wins? Yeah, who is the ultimate winner here? Right, or the flip side is that who loses?
Right, yeah,
right, because when I throw in the towel, or check out or whatever I do, right, someone else is involved. always, right?
Right.
You say at the
Yeah.
intensive,
Right.
sin is
Right.
never solo,
Sin
right?
is
And
never
so
solo. Somebody somewhere on the planet is going to be affected by my sin. Yes.
Right. And we usually leave those people in our wake. As we are looking at those things inside of me, the wounds or the hurts or the pain or the destruction that I've left, I'm looking at myself. We're called to broaden our vision to look at others and to see what's going on around us.
Yeah.
So when we talk about who wins, well, when we address the struggle, when we stay in that fight, then again, all of those people around us get to benefit from our hard work.
That's right. Yeah.
Now, so let me throw a caution flag.
Right.
We can't concentrate on
Right.
that
Not
winning.
doing it for them. Right. Exactly.
Right.
Agreed.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
we
not
can't,
for them.
We'll twist it sometimes to do that. Right.
Takes one to know one.
Yeah.
I've been there, done that. I don't want to do that, and sometimes I do, and I really get set straight of, this is not about me checking a box. This is about me getting into my heart and really looking at the struggle inside of there, of the seriousness of my sin and the seriousness of the effects and impact of my behavior.
Right.
Right. Out of the mouth, the heart speaks.
Yeah.
And so if there's destruction in my heart, then it's going to come out in some way. And we talk about our acting out behavior, it comes out behaviorally.
Yeah.
And that hurts those around us. So we can't be, we can do anything. We need to adjust our vision to taking ownership and agency of our work and owning it, because that's what we're called to do when we are children of God.
Yeah.
You know, we are bought with a price. Do we really understand what that price was?
Yeah.
It wasn't just something we read in a book from King Jimmy or The Message or ESV or whatever those other things are. Right. We don't understand the price sometimes that was really paid for that choice to have God look at us and say, "There's my son right there," or "There's my daughter."
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that highlights the question of who wins and who loses. It's not just in the immediate, I win or lose, the people around me, the people who are important to me win or lose. But man, if I give in, right, the enemy wins. Right? But if I stay in the fight, man, heaven wins. Right. Like, I mean, God already won. Okay, but there is a very real truth that, Scripture tells us that the angels in heaven rejoice when one sinner repents, right? So when I'm choosing to stay in the fight, choosing to keep going, man, there's like this celebration that's happening, in the heavenly realms
on our behalf.
as well. Yeah, on our behalf. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that it doesn't stop there. It ultimately stretches out to what legacy are we going to leave?
Yeah.
Are we even thinking that far ahead?
Right.
Well, okay, honestly, no. When we're acting out, we're not, right?
Most of the time, no.
But when we get into mental clarity of the afterburn of that, then I'm confronted with what is my legacy going to be? That dad or brother or uncle or whoever that was engaged in these behaviors and he just gave up. And that was his life for the rest of his life.
Right.
No, I don't want that.
Right.
Right. At my funeral, I want somebody to say, you know what? He fought this.
Yes. Yeah.
And this was the day he turned around, and this was the day that he changed multiple generations in our family.
That's right. Yeah.
And that will be, of course, music to my ears, shall I say? Well, I'll be playing a harp somewhere, but I mean, you get the analogy,
6-string
though.
harp.
Do they have tailors in heaven?
I mean, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway.
But ultimately, our family tree will be changed forever.
That's right.
And so, if you're watching this and if you're hearing this, and you're struggling with that concept of, I just fail over and over and over. Let's talk a little bit further about what we need to be doing here. Yeah. So there's coaching, there's counseling, there's mentoring.
Yes.
Getting into accountability with one or more guys, one or more people who are important to you that you trust, or that you've been in a relationship before, a healthy relationship before, that that knows you, or in this case, knows me, and loves me for me. They don't love me because I live in a postal code or I drive a car or have so much, this great job. No, when guys love me for me, there is nothing sweeter than that connection. And so it's some of those things, looking now into maybe even groups. Our Every Man's Battle Intensive, we have an aftercare program that we talk about sustained victory. And in that sustained victory group, it's an ongoing, weekly, daily look at how am I in this battle, in this fight?
How am I showing up to this battle?
Every
Absolutely.
day.
Yes.
Every day.
Yes. Yeah.
And there's accountability. And it's not just a way to check a box and say, okay, did my bit for today and it's over. This is how we need to be looking at our lives.
Yeah.
It's a life change.
Yeah.
I tell all my guys in my groups, you only have to change one thing.
Right.
Really? Okay, great. Lay it on us,
and
that's everything.
Yes, exactly.
And am I willing to address the willingness?
Yeah.
Do I have the willingness to address all of those extra things in my life? Those ancillary things that ultimately will make a change in my legacy and the generations to come. Because I don't want to be that guy that said, I threw in the towel and didn't care about anybody else.
Yeah. Exactly.
Especially when I profess with my mouth that, my family at home is the most important.
Right. Exactly. And I got to say, there's maybe one final piece that I want to talk about, and just in the interest of time, as we wrap up our second episode on the same topic. Part of why it's important that we keep fighting is because we're not omniscient. Right?
Right.
We're not omniscient. We don't know everything.
Right.
So I don't know when the breakthrough is going to happen. And so when I quit, I'm making a claim by my quitting that there's no breakthrough. It's not coming. It's not going to happen. And you're not that smart. And neither am I. And neither is Doug, even though he's really smart. We're not that smart. We're not omniscient. We don't know. And so often we give up what our AA brothers say. We give up just before the miracle.
Yeah, we miss the miracle.
We miss the miracle because we gave up before the fight was over, before we got to that breakthrough. It reminds me, when I was in college, I worked in I lived in a scholarship house, and so there were several scholarship houses. And so I was one of the maintenance assistants for the scholarship foundation, and so I was going around doing all the, fixing the.
To see you push a broom, man.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, I did everything. I did everything in those. I don't know. There was something like 17 houses or something.
Wow.
One of the jobs I had one day was there was a concrete slab that had to be broken up, little, like 2 foot by 3 feet, 4 inches thick. That was sizable when all I had was a sledgehammer.
Chunk,
I didn't have a jackhammer. I had a sledgehammer.
Right.
And, I was this scrawny little 19-year-old, and I'm just wailing away at this slab of concrete, just wailing and wailing. And, every once in a while, a little tiny fleck of concrete would fly off just to mock me, right? And the slab just sat there looking at me like, what do you got, right? You can't hurt me. And I'm wailing away. And I don't know how long I was there, at least half an hour, maybe 45 minutes of just, and it's hot, it's Florida, I'm sweating. And I'm getting ready to give up because it's hard and I'm seeing no progress.
Yeah.
And then finally, I had this one blow and a crack forms in the middle of the slab. And I'm like, okay, all right, we're getting somewhere, right? But the truth is, every single blow up to that one was doing work. There were all these little micro fissures that were going through the concrete. I couldn't see them. Right. All I saw were the little tiny flecks that were just mocking me. I didn't see the cracks that were forming inside.
Yeah.
They weren't visible to me. And so often our fight in this battle, our continuing to fight even when we're struggling, even when we're not having the success that we wish we had, right? So oftentimes just our staying in the fight is forming those micro fissures. And if we'll stay in it just a little bit longer, eventually we see that crack form on the surface. But we don't know when that's going to happen because we're not omniscient. And we don't want to miss the miracle. We don't want to give up before that breakthrough. And so here's my plea to you who are listening, who maybe are at the end of your rope. And maybe you've been doing this recovery thing for a while, and you look at your track record and go, I don't know that I'm any better off now than I was when I started.
I hear that a lot.
And I'm frustrated, and I'm defeated, and I'm upset, and I'm ready to throw in the towel. Can I encourage you? Can I implore you to commit to one more day? Commit to one more day. And in that day that you commit to, invite others. Doug talked about maybe connecting with a counselor. You can call 1-800-NEW-LIFE and get on the, find out who's on the counselor network to find a counselor in your area. Maybe it's going to one of the workshops, signing up and going to one of the workshops so that you're not doing this alone, and then joining a group like Sustain Victory. Maybe it's sitting down and talking with the pastor or a couple guys in your church to say, man, I'm getting my clock cleaned and I need some others around me to help me. Don't give up. Don't stop just short of the miracle, just short of the breakthrough. Stay in the battle one more day, but stay in it in community, not in isolation, right? Because we know this. It's God's desire that we would have that breakthrough. It's God's desire that we would. Scripture's clear. It's God's desire that we would walk in sexual integrity. That's His desire for us. And Scripture also tells us in Philippians that He who began a good work in you will be faithful to complete it. And so we want to stay in the fight because God is in the fight with us, and He hasn't given up on us.
Let me give you one more thought here, and then you can close it. When we give in to our acting out behavior, we have clearly been attacked in some way.
Yeah.
Okay. And so looking at this, like, attacks on me are an opportunity to grow.
Yes.
So don't give up.
Yeah.
Never, ever, ever give up.
I know.
Keep fighting.
I hear Jimmy V in my head, right?
Yeah.
But it was powerful because it was so true, right?
Right.
Keep fighting. Don't give up.
Yeah.
Give us a call. Reach out. Let us know what's going on. Thank you, Doug. Good to be with you guys. Thanks for listening. Like I said, commit to one more day. Keep and join the battle with some brothers. Get in community so you're not trying to fight this alone. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next time. We are going to cover the topic, how do I talk to my parents? Maybe I'm a teenager, adolescent, young adult. How do I talk to my parents about my struggle, my battle, my sexual integrity? Or if you are an adult, how do I talk to my friends? How do I bring more people into this fight, as we just talked about? And so we're gonna do a whole episode on how do I have those conversations, because boy, it gets stuck in our throat, right? Yeah.
Right.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. We'll talk with you next time.
Thanks for listening. This podcast is just one of the many ways we can encourage and help you. If you're looking for more help, visit us at newlife.com or call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Please remember to review, like, and share the podcast as it helps others find us. If you have a comment about this podcast, we'd love to hear from you. Drop us a line at embpodcast@newlife.com. See you next week.